chugga chugga woo woo. Chugga 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 woo woo. Gotta get this done. Gotta get this done. Gotta get this chugga chugga. Gotta get this done. Gotta get this chugga chugga. Gotta get this done. Gotta get this chugga chugga. Gotta get this done. Gotta get this chugga chugga. Gotta get this done. Gotta get this chugga chugga. Gotta get this done. Gotta get this chugga chugga. Gotta get this done. Gotta get this chugga chugga. Gotta get this done. Gotta get this chugga chugga. Gotta get this done. Gotta get this chugga chugga. Gotta get this done. Gotta get this chugga chugga. Gotta get this done. Gotta get this chugga chugga. Gotta get this done. Gotta get this chugga chugga. Gotta get this done. Gotta get this chugga chugga. Gotta get this done. Gotta connect the country. Connect the line. Connect the people. What people? What people? Connect the country. Connect the line. Connect the people. What people? What people? Connect the country. Connect the line. Connect the people. What people? What people? Connect the country. Connect the line. Connect the people. What people? What people? Connect the country. Connect the line. Connect the people. What people? What people? Connect the country. Connect the line. Connect the people. What people? What people? Connect the country. Connect the line. Connect the people. What people? What people? Connect the country. Connect the line. Connect the people. What people? What people? Connect the country. Connect the line. Connect the people. What people? What people? Connect the country. What men? What people? 15,000 men. 15,000 what men? What people? 15,000 men. 15,000 what men? What people? 15,000 men. 15,000 what men? What people? 15,000. Connect the line. Connect the people. What people? What people? Connect the country. Connect the line. Connect the people. What people? What people? Chinky, 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 Chinese. Chinky, 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 what Chinese? What people? Connect the country. Connect the line. Connect the people. What people? What people? Chinky, chinky, thousand men. Chinky, chinky, thousand what men? What people? 15,000 men. 15,000 what men? What people? Chinky, chinky, thousand Chinese. Chinky, chinky, thousand what Chinese? What people? Chinky, chinky, thousand what Chinese? chinky Chinese. Chinky, 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 chinky. What Chinese? What people? What people? Chinky, what people? What people? In 1871, the colony of British Columbia agreed to rejoin the Dominion of Canada, but only if they were connected to the eastern part of the country by rail within 10 years. In 1880, when they began building the railway, Canada was only 1 year away from their promise to BC. There were 2 segments of the railway built. One end started in Halifax and came towards Vancouver. The other began in Vancouver and met in Craigellachie, where the last spike was drawn. The section of the CPR railway that ran from Vancouver through the Fraser Canyon was considered the most treacherous. It was difficult to fill these jobs, and so Chinese laborers, who were considered expendable, were brought in. 17,000 Chinese workers worked to complete the railroad. The Chinese laborers were paid 50% less than the workers of European origin. Their lives were not valued by the country, and over 700 Chinese workers died working on the railroad. In 1882, 72% of the railroad workers were Chinese Canadian or of Chinese descent. The section of the rail from Craigellachie, where the last spike was driven, had 28 sections. Only 2% of those sections were built by those of European origin. When the last spike was driven on November 7th of 1885, the CPR and the Dominion of Canada gathered to celebrate and to take a photo commemorating this moment. There is not a single Chinese worker shown in this photo. Before this photo was taken, they would have had to clear all of the Chinese workers out of the way so that they could come together in this celebratory moment. This was a moment to honor the work taken, to connect the people of a new nation, the Dominion of Canada. In 1885, Prime Minister John A. Macdonald told the House of Commons that the Chinese worker has no common interest with us. And while he gives us labor, he is paid for it and is valuable, the same as a threshing machine or any other agricultural implement, which may be borrowed from the United States and returned to its original owner on the south side of the line. He has no British instincts, no British feelings, and no British aspirations, and therefore he ought not have a vote. The Chinese did not have the right to vote for 72 years to come. Any Chinese Canadian, even if they were born in Canada, during this time period, were considered aliens to the country rather than citizens. It wasn't until 2 years after World War II, and after 700 Chinese Canadians, the same number that died building the railroad, served in World War II, that the Chinese won the right to franchise. 1885 was not only a year for completing the railroad or for disenfranchising the vote for Chinese Canadians. It was also in 1885 that the Chinese head tax was introduced, In 1885, any Chinese immigrant coming into Canada was taxed $50 to enter. In 1900, 15 years later, the head tax was doubled to $100. And 3 years later, the head tax was raised to $500. Our ancestors, on both sides of our Chinese family, have paid this head tax, whether it be in the amount of $50 or $500. In 1923, Canada had had enough, and to celebrate its birth, on July 1st, Canada Day, the Chinese Exclusion Act came into place. This act essentially barred any Chinese immigration to Canada between the years of 1923 to 1947 based on race. Canada during this time was known as a bachelor society in the Chinese Canadian communities. There was a ratio of 28 men to 1 woman in the community. In our family, as 5th generation Chinese Canadian settlers, our great-grandmothers immigrated to Canada before the 1923 Exclusion Act. Had our great-grandmothers waited a few years later to immigrate to Canada, it's possible that our grandparents would never have been born, and we would not be here today. To this day, no other people of any origin or descent have had Canadian legislation written against them, barring them to Canada based on race, or who have had to pay a head tax upon entry into Canada. It was during this time period that my grandmother was born. In October of 1923, 3 months after the Chinese Exclusion Act. This song is for her. There's a story in my blood, music in my bones. When I feel lost, unknown, music carry me home. Music carry me home. You were born in Victoria's Chinatown, third in a line of 8. You took care of the younger ones, made sure they all went to school. You had a good sense of humor. You were pretty smart. Twirl the baton in the Chinese Texas drill team, and people called you sharp. Your piano teacher noticed you had talent, so your family saved up. And wasn't it this music that was your saving grace, that helped you hold your chin up? You could play that music, but you couldn't swim. You could play that music, but you couldn't swim because the color of your skin. You could play that music, but you couldn't swim. You could play that music, but you couldn't swim because the color of your skin. Oh, Canada. Oh, Canada. Open your borders when you need us, but you don't really see us. Open your borders when you need us, but you don't really see us. There's a story in my blood, music in my bones. When I feel lost, unknown, music carry me home. Music carry me home. Music carry me home. It was during this time that I fell in love with China's red earth. A daydreaming youth with loss on my mind, I took to the open road. Invited by a stranger to join in a journey that I was already on. It was this moment that I tossed my book, telling me where to go and why. This truly was a time of deepening and connection. Connection to the cool air as I raced down the mountain, riding on my bike. Connection to the moon and stars as they lit our way at night. Wonder at how the world changes in the comfort of the moon, to the smoke and smell and the fiery glow of burning embers in the fields. Connection to the farmland where I lay my head to rest. This same land my ancestors worked. Connection to the tea tree plantations and the monsoon rain that followed, to the Mekong River and the boulders caked in mud all along their shores. It's these same shores so quiet at night where I saw the moon reflecting on the water. And in that moment, I knew I wasn't alone, that I never would be alone. You see, you had left this earth in your bodily shape, but here in this moment, I realized, as long as there is a moon to rise and water to flow, I know that I am not alone. That you, my mother, are here with me. After my mother passed away in 2006, I began this 16-year journey to retrace my ancestral roots. With her passing, along with my grandma and great aunt, and as a fifth-generation Chinese Canadian, I felt a deep sense of loss. I felt the need to dig deeper into my ancestral identity, as well as to come back and to share this experience, culture, and knowledge with my family and friends. I went backpacking in China for 6 months, and I was deeply moved by the kindness offered to me by locals, as well as how deep of a blood connection I felt to the vast, rich countryside and to the red earth visited in this last piece. Several years later, I began formally studying Mandarin. During this period of 10 years, I lived in China for 3, weaving in and out of Canada each year. As the years went on, our family lost more Chinese elders, and with each loss, I felt that I was racing the clock to learn more about who I was. Tonight, you will have heard 5 songs. This is symbolic of our 5 generations of being Chinese Canadian settlers on this land. This journey began as a story, a memoir, and deep dive that my mother was unable to finish. In the last years of her life, some of her last dreams were to know more about our family history, to share in the pride of being Chinese Canadian, and to share this history. This is a story that I have been uncovering, unraveling, and learning from the inside out for the last 16 years. In my attempts to write a memoir, I heard a question come to me. Is this maybe an album? As soon as I opened the door to writing an album, the songs and music flowed right out of me and onto the paper, into the air. In some cases, The movements that went along with these songs were entwined in the songwriting. They were not separate and wanted the space to be here. Here I wonder, is this maybe a play? What is this? To me, this is the story of my family and my ancestors. It is the story of a systemic silencing of an entire people's history. This work did not come from me. It flows through me and is the story of those who have come before. Without them, I would not be here. Thank you so much for being on this journey with me. Here I'll ask you, what has surprised you in this performance? What will stay with you? What might you like to leave behind? For my last song, I would like to invite my beautiful sister, Erica, onto stage to perform with me. This is the 5th song and completes the journey through 5 generations of our Chinese-Canadian ancestry. It brings us to our current generation. Erica is a wonderful poet, a kind soul, and she sings like a sparrow. Please enjoy the last song, Gentle Strength, Gentle Being. Gentle strength, gentle being, in listening, power in unlearning, shedding layers as we grow. Mothers hold you and let you flow. Think of you, harmonies float on the wind. When I think of you, harmonies, children of the sea. Do you know what it feels like to be in my skin? Generations of mothers, generations of song, generations of stories, generations of love. Do you know what it feels like to be in my skin? Do you know what it feels like to be in my skin? I've arrived, I've survived. This is my space. I've arrived, I've survived. This is my place. Do you know what it feels like to be in my skin? Do you know what it feels like to be in my skin? Sing with us. Do you know what it feels like to be in my skin? Do you know what it feels like to be in my skin? Stand with us. Do you know what it feels like to be in my skin? Back us up. Do you know what it feels like to be in my skin? Join us. Do you know what it feels like to be in my skin? One more time. Do you know what it feels like to be in my skin? Gentle strength, gentle power. I'm listening. I know my worth. Gentle strength, gentle power. What it feels like in matriarchy, in my skin. Gentle strength, gentle power. What it feels like community, in my skin. Gentle strength, gentle power. What it feels like in my skin. Gentle strength, gentle healing in harmony. Woo! Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you so much. I know I wasn't really supposed to say this, but I literally just finished writing this today. Thank you for being here for the first show of this piece. I'm hoping to take it places, to perform it for other people, to share this history of love, resiliency, and struggles from the past to the present. Thank you.